In this lesson, we will learn how to use Cutting Master 2. The Cutting Master 2 plugin application enables designs to be sent from within supported versions of Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW to Graphtec cutters. Cutting Master 2 is especially helpful for those who have experience designing with Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW, and it provides a simple way for cutting designs on the Graphtec FC2250 flatbed cutter. The Cutting Master 2 application can do several useful tasks. Besides providing a simple way to send job designs to the FC2250, conditions can be assigned to specific layers, colors, or whole job designs. Registration marks used for the print and cut process can be placed on the design right within Adobe Illustrator. There are two components to Cutting Master 2. The first component is the plugin. This is the plugin module that will be part of Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW applications. In other words, they work right within Illustrator and CorelDRAW. This is where the design, once completed, allows final adjustments to be made, such as size, rotation, orientation, and other settings prior to sending the job to the FC2250. The second component is the job queue, where, as the name implies, queues the jobs being sent to the cutter. To demonstrate how Cutting Master 2 plugin works in Illustrator, once the design is completed, click on the File pull-down menu, hover the mouse over Cutting Master 2, and go to Cut Plot. Let's stop there for a moment and switch to CorelDRAW, because it's a little different. To access it, click on the Application Launcher. Note that depending on the version of CorelDRAW you own, the application launcher can look different. Review your CorelDRAW manual for further help. Once the application launcher is selected, click on Cut Plot at the bottom of the list. For the rest of this lesson, we'll be using Adobe Illustrator since it has the same process or operation as CorelDRAW. Returning to Adobe Illustrator, let's review Cutting Master 2 itself. There are two components. This window is the main component to Cutting Master 2. Here is where all the settings can be configured and adjusted prior to cutting. The second component is the job queue, where, as the name implies, queues the jobs being sent to the cutter. Keep in mind that Cutting Master 2 can only use one cutter at a time. The name or model of that driver is displayed at the top of the queue window. The 5 buttons here each have a different operation relating to the jobs in the queue. The trash can will delete a job in the queue. The stop sign stops the jobs from being sent to the cutter. The Send Job button will send or resume the jobs in the queue. This button will save a job in the queue in cases where it can be opened later. This saves you the time of opening up a repeated job in Adobe Illustrator. Let's go over the options and features in the main component. At the top are tabs pages with different options such as General Settings, Paneling or Tiling Settings, Layers, and Advanced Setting. With each tab, the left side contains options relating to the job being sent to the cutters. The right side is the preview window, where the job can be shown how it will fit with relation to the media size. Any adjustments made to the values will affect this relationship. Once the job is in Cutting Master 2, as mentioned, there are several tabs of options that can be set. Let's take a closer look at the first tab with the general options. At the top is the media size. Currently, it is set at 24 by 36 inches. This can be set in these values below. First, click on the pull-down menu and select User Defined. This then allows for the width and height of the media to be adjusted. As mentioned earlier, as these values are adjusted, notice the preview window on the right. It adjusts accordingly by diagramming how the job size will fit within the media. Looking closer at the preview area, the white area here represents the media size. Here, the layout of the job can be viewed as it will be on the media or table. we can overlay a diagram of the FC2250 flatbed table over the preview area. Notice that this corner is the corner of the table nearest to the control panel on the cutter. Keep this in mind when viewing the preview area, especially the location of the job relative to the table. This is also indicated by the blue and red arrows here. Notice that the same colored arrows are near this diagram of the FC2250 up here. A closer look will reveal that the corner of the preview area is the corner on the diagram near the control panel. The job size can be adjusted just below, either by a size value or by percentage. This checkmark box will resize the job to always fit within the media size. As the media size is adjusted, the job will resize as well. The second checkbox will keep the value proportionate so that when either size value, height, or width is adjusted, the other value will adjust with it to keep the size proportionate, as opposed to stretching the job design. The job can be repositioned within the media by using these two values. The first value is side to side, and the second value is up and down. Keep in mind though that the job can be repositioned just by moving the mouse point over the media area here, and then clicking and dragging the job to a new location. With this in mind, if this button were to be engaged, watch what happens. The actual tool head on the cutter will move as well. This helps to visually see where the job will actually start. If you're unsure if the job size is going to fit within the material's edges, the Show Me button can be of great help. Click on this button and the software will have the cutter measure or move the head in a rectangular motion to the size of the job. The three buttons here on the right will adjust the orientation. The first button has presets to position the job within the media. There are several choices. The next button rotates the job to 0, 90, 180, or 270 degrees. Let's rotate the job 90 degrees so that we can have it lay out horizontally on the flatbed table. This button will flip or mirror the job. The next option sets the number of copies. The first value is the number of copies. As this number increases, the copies are placed in the preview area, once again, to help us see how it will lay out on the flatbed table. As they reach the top, they will stop and start a new column. If we rotate them back to 0 degrees, this can help us determine which is the best fit for obtaining the most copies possible. The second value is the distance between each copy. As this number increases, the distance will expand or contract and adjust the number of copies accordingly. Normally when a job is sent to the cutter, it will be placed in the job queue and sent immediately to the cutter. When Hold On List is checked, the job is sent to the queue, but it is held there. In other words, it will not be sent to the cutter until it is released. This is helpful when the cutter has not been loaded with the media yet, or an adjustment has to be made to the cutter before the job can be sent to it. Release the job by switching to the queue, and then clicking Send, which sends the job to the cutter. Let's return to the options. Reset will reset all of the values back to their original settings. Selection Only will only process the objects that have been selected within Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW. Zoom tools are provided to get either a closer or an overall view of the job. The first tool is used to move the job around. The second tool zooms in closer. The third tool will zoom to the media size. And the fourth tool will zoom so that the complete job is within the preview area. The next tab has to do with layers. Let's return to Adobe Illustrator. Notice that this job has two colors, the colors of blue and red. Let's send this to Cutting Master 2. and click on the Layers tab. At the top there are two choices, by color and by layer. When by color is selected, Cutting Master 2 will separate the design into two jobs. When the job is sent, it will send one color before the other. In this case, the red lines or objects will be sent before the blue, each being represented by RGB or CMYK color values. The benefit to this is that if the job is to have two different operations, such as creasing and cutting, one color can be set to crease and one color can be set to be cut. The check mark by each color determines whether it will be sent to the cutter. For instance, if the red color were to be slated for creasing and the blue for cutting, we would want to use the creasing tool first. Thus we would click on the check mark next to the blue layer, disabling it, and then send the job where only the red objects are sent. Once the plotting is done, then we would switch the tool in the cutter, click on the blue layer to enable it again, click on the red this time to disable it, and send the job consisting of only the blue lines and objects. The pause between color layer checkbox when selected or checked automates the process by pausing the cutting after the red layer has been sent. When this happens, a pop-up message appears that alerts you that the operation has been paused. Once the tool has been changed, click OK to send the objects on the blue colored layer. This pausing option eliminates the need to enable and disable layers one at a time. To automate cutting two different layers even further, in this area below is where the cut condition presets can be chosen for each individual layer. Cutting condition presets are similar to the conditions found on the FC2250 cutter, with the exception that these are created in the software. They can be labeled with specific names that help identify the condition's purpose. Keep in mind though when choosing the condition to make sure the values for force and speed are set as required to plot or cut. These can be obtained by performing cutting tests. For instance, if this job were to be partially plotted with a pen and partially cut, a pen plotting condition could be assigned to the red colored objects, and a cutting condition could be assigned to the blue colored objects. Currently, condition 1 on the cutter has been configured for pen plotting, and condition 2 has been configured for cutting. Let's assign the red colored objects to the pen plotting condition. First, we'll click on the red color, click on the Enable Driver Options checkbox, click on the Preset pull-down menu, and select FC2250 number 1 plotter condition, which will switch the cutter to condition 1 prior to plotting. Notice that the values below are all set to 0. This indicates that none of these settings on the cutter will be affected. Now we can click on the blue color and set the preset to FC2250 number 2 plotter condition, which will switch the cutter to condition 2 prior to cutting. Once again, the values are all set to 0 so that the condition settings on the cutter won't be affected. With both colors enabled and assigned to a condition preset, the job can be sent to the cutter. This is more efficient since the cutter will change the condition automatically. The next lesson on print and cut will cover more how to use layers effectively for the print and cut process. What's convenient about condition presets is that they can be created to suit your needs. Let's create 2 new conditions for cutting and creasing chipboard. Let's first configure a condition for creasing. To create a condition preset, first change all the values, including the condition number, force, speed, and then save it as a new preset. In this case, the first condition preset will be for creasing. This we can set to condition 1. The force for creasing should be up around 70, and the speed should be set around 25. The passes value can be increased since this will make a better indentation. We can set this value to 5, which will draw or plot each crease line 5 times. Before setting this value, you may want to test this on the cutter. To save this condition preset, click on this pull-down list of condition presets, scroll to the bottom of the list, and click Save As. Enter the new name, which in this case we'll label it Chipboard Crease, and then click OK. We can configure the next condition preset for cutting. In this case, we can select condition 2, set the force to 35, and the speed to 25. This can be saved now. Once again, we click on the condition preset lists, scroll to the bottom, click Save As, label it Chipboard Cut, and click OK. These two new conditions can now be assigned to each color of the job, one for each color. There is essentially no limit as to how many different condition presets can be created and configured. The same concept of assigning colors to conditions can also be applied to layers that are configured within Adobe Illustrator. Take this design here. Notice in the Layers palette there are two layers labeled Crease and Cut. Let's send this job design to Cutting Master 2. And click on the Layers tab again. This time we'll click on By Layer. And here are the two layers established in Adobe Illustrator, Crease and Cut. These work the same way as when working with colors in that they can also be assigned to condition presets. Pause between color layer can also be used to pause between each layer if there is more than one. The next tab has options with regard to the panel and tiling the panel. While we won't be covering all the options in this tab, we'll show the important ones. In the paneling options, jobs can be cropped when only a portion has to be cut. For instance, here is a job we had earlier. If we needed to recut the letter G in Graphtec, we can simply grab one of the grab handles and adjust it around the G. Clicking Send would send just the G to the cutter. The panel size can be adjusted by using the control points or by entering the width and height in these two spaces. Jobs can also be tiled within the panel. Tiling is used when the job is larger than the cutter's cut area. When this happens, the software will tile it, separating it into sections or tiles within the panel. Let's return the panel to its original shape and return to the General tab and increase the percentage size to 900% so that the job is larger than the pulled cut area on the table. Now let's go back to the Panels tab page. Here there is the panel with several tiles within the panel. When there is more than one tile, the Select Tile section can be used to adjust the size of the tile. The values reflect which tile is selected. In this case, it is Tile 1, which is indicated by the dark bold outline seen in the preview area. When resizing tiles, this can sometimes add or remove tiles. For instance, if the tile height is reduced, notice that at some point another tile is added at the top. Tiles can be adjusted within the preview area as well. When hovering over a tile line, the mouse pointer changes to this shape. This indicates that it is over a tile line, and if we click, hold, and drag the mouse, the tile line can be adjusted. In the preview area, tiles can be disabled by double-clicking on them. When this is done, a gray crosshatch pattern appears over the tile. Double-click on it again, and the crosshatch is removed, indicating that the tile is enabled and will be cut. There is no option for pausing, so when a job that is tiled is output to the cutter, each tile has to be sent one at a time. This requires all of the tiles to be disabled except for the tile that is going to be cut. Once it is cut, then it is disabled and the next tile to be cut needs to be selected and enabled. The All Tiles section contains settings that will adjust the rows and columns of the tile pattern while keeping the panel the same size. The two checkbox options on the right, when enabled, adjust the number of rows and columns in the tile pattern. The next two checkbox options on the left, when enabled, will set the size of the columns and rows. Keep in mind the values will not exceed the media size set in the General Options tab. Adjustments can be made in these options, but the best option is this button here, which is Auto Tile, which will set the tile pattern that best suits the current job according to the size of the cut area of the table. Click the Reset button here to reset the files. In the Advanced tab, not every setting is going to be covered since it doesn't apply to using a flatbed. The weed border option may be used when cutting vinyl, such as a reflective vinyl for highway signs. The weed border places a square around the graphic automatically, so that after the job is cut, this makes it easier to weed the material. To make this easier, there are the other options for weeding, such as horizontal weed lines. If this is enabled, it places a cut line right across the design. It automatically searches where it can place horizontal lines without crossing over the objects in the design. Vertical lines does the same, except that it places vertical lines. The next option, Optimize Cutting Order, will sort the objects in a job so that they cut in a more organized and efficient manner. If this option is enabled, there is a choice for Speed Priority, which the objects will be cut in an order that maximizes cutting speed. Restricted media movement only applies mostly to roll feed cutters, but it restricts the amount of movement that the Y bar will make.